Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's Malia with Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina. Want to give everybody just a couple more minutes here just to give everybody time to get logged on. All right. Looks like I don't see anyone else bouncing in, so we can go ahead and get started. And also, we may not need the entire hour. So just FYI, we may not need the entire hour. We may only need 30 or 45 minutes or so, but I wanted to block off an hour just in case. So I've been really excited to bring this to you all and talk about family engagement, talk about how we can have parents come to the table and partner as part of this child abuse prevention planning process, truly as equal partners at the table. And we've had conversations around inviting parents to be at the table. We've had some success in having parents at the table, but I'm hoping over the next year that we're able to really have parents come and join all of the counties that are working on this as true partners and trying to figure out how we can keep all kids safe. So I am thrilled to share with you all this presentation today, and here we are, and our presenters. So Gina Brown, she's there on the left. She's a family partner. She's going to be speaking and sharing with you all what her experience and her expertise is as a family partner. And then we also have Cara Allen Eckerd with NC State Center for Family and Community Engagement. So Cara and Gina have been working as part of a state level child welfare family advisory council for the past year and a half. And this is a family advisory council that's made up of family partners and parents and foster parents, etc. So they're going to share with you a lot more information about that and kind of the structure of the Child Welfare Family Advisory Council. But I just want you all to know that they have a lot of expertise to share with you today. So if you have questions at the end, please, we want to have your questions. We want to answer your questions as best we can. Or if you think of something later, reach out to Taylor or Nadia. I'm sure they'd be happy to help you out with that. But while they're here and their undivided attention, if you think of anything you want to ask them about, let's ask, okay? So Cara, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thanks, Malia. I'm really excited about being a part of this workshop because I have been working for probably the past almost 4 years with state child welfare to help them develop a family leadership model that really is intended to bring family partners, and family partners include a whole variety of family members, including youth who have lived experience with the child welfare system, to the table to help to better understand how to roll out policies and practices statewide so that families are better engaged and that the results for our children are more positive. They focus on safety, child well-being, and permanency, but that they bring into that conversation the perspective of families who've been on the receiving end of all those conversations and have had to work with child welfare to establish those those end results and better results for children. So I'm really excited to be here to share some of the things that we've learned, to share a little bit more about the leadership model that is being promoted and supported by child welfare. I am with the Center for Family and Community Engagement at North Carolina State University, and we are contracted with the state to provide some of the infrastructure, the leadership development, and to help co-develop what this model needs to look like with our family partners around the state. So we'll share a little bit more about this as we go through, but I'm excited to have the prevention planning sites at the table thinking about how to engage families in a very meaningful way, because I do think at the end of the day, it's going to make whatever you come up with so much more relevant to the families that we're all wanting to help and support in our state. I'm going to pass the mic to Gina, and Gina, if you could share a little bit more about your role.
Hello, everyone. My role on the advisory council is specifically a kinship parent partner. As I said, there's different types of parents on the advisory council. I'm really proud of the engagement work that we've done so far. In addition to the Child Welfare Family Advisory Council, I bring the family voice by serving on the State Advisory Board for the Community Child Protection Teamwork and also NC Care 360. I'm also providing technical assistance to Forsyth County for their Family Engagement Committee pilot. I'm excited to speak with you guys today about family engagement and how you can support this positive work in your community. And again, I suggest any questions, feel free to pick our brains. We're excited to be here. Okay, for terms, on defining the terms of the family partner, let's start by getting everybody on the same page with some definitions. When we talk about a family partner, it can either be a youth or an adult. It has to be someone who has received services. They need to have firsthand experience with the child welfare system. And when we talk about a caregiver, we have a parent, a birth parent, but that caregiver can be a step parent, foster parent, adoptive parent, grandmother, aunt, uncle, the list goes on. And then you get into fictive kin, that there isn't any family relation, but there is an attachment to that youth. So when we say partner, need to remember we need adults as well as youth.
Thanks, Gina. And it was really important for us to get the definition of a family partner very clear, because I know that a lot of systems are inviting families to the table. And what child welfare really wanted in the family leadership model was the perspective of families who had lived experience with the child welfare system. And so it was pretty critical that we identified who fits in that role. And as Gina said, it really runs the whole spectrum of youth to the variety of caregivers who support children and families in the child welfare system. We also really felt it was important to define collaboration. One of the things that you will, I think, recognize is a lot of families who are willing to come to the table to support these conversations are coming because they want to advocate for change. And that is really critical. Their experiences have allowed them to see the system in both positive and negative ways, and they are able to bring to the table how those experiences could have been different. And so most families who are coming to the table are advocating for some sort of change to make the system better. What child welfare was looking for, particularly at the state level, was family leadership development so that family partners could be at the table as collaborative partners. This doesn't negate the desire to see the system be better or to have advocacy in your bones as what brings you to the table. But the function, particularly at the state level and also at the sort of county family engagement committee level, was to really talk about how are families at the table as equal partners looking at the policies and the programs and providing insights into the best way to move forward. So our definition of collaboration is agencies and families joining together for the purpose of interdependent problem solving that focuses on improving services to children, youth, and families. And so it's really important that we emphasize that shared vision, that shared action of looking at the policies and programs that the federal government sort of gives to the state or the state government gives to child welfare to implement, really getting all those perspectives to figure out how to move forward was what we were looking for. Next slide. So one of the things that we wanted to share was the actual family leadership model, because you all as community prevention teams fit into this model. I do know that you have access to a PDF where you can actually see this a little bit better and you can hold it in your hands. But through collaborative partnerships with many different systems, with families, with child welfare, with public health, mental health, all sorts of different players who are invested in child safety and invested in family leadership, we came up with this basic framework for a family leadership model to drive child welfare. A couple of the things I think that are worth noting: we recognized as we were developing this model that families may want to enter into conversations with child welfare or child welfare system issues at different paces, and that immediately jumping to sitting on a state level committee may not be comfortable for a family partner who's coming to the table. And we really needed to look at tiers of experience and tiers of opportunities to define this model and to create multiple opportunities for families to be a part of this conversation. So it's not an all or nothing. If you look at sort of the bottom of this page, we talk about sort of foundations of strong family engagement. And really that's the key relationship building component. You have got to build into your systems some capacity to engage with families at that case level experience and engage with them in a way where you're seeing families as partners in moving forward and partners in developing good case plans or good decisions for how to support their families. And that's all built on relationships. So whatever's at your core of your work, it needs to be built on a strong component of building solid relationships with families who work with your system or who work with your agencies or who work with your communities. Tier 1 we call family leadership exploration, and we look at this as like this is an opportunity, the opportunities in the spaces that we offer for families to come and provide their insights, provide their feedback, but they can just participate in it one time only if that's all they want. So in this situation for you all, this might be stakeholder meetings, focus groups, and in particular, families who choose to participate in some of your parent cafe events. It's not something that's required to be an ongoing, sort of consistent commitment, but it is an opportunity for families to come and inform your system by providing their insights and their feedback. Jumping up to tier 2, for us that looks like a couple of different things, but the long and the short of it is we're looking for a shift from just coming and sharing to coming and partnering. So for our family leadership model, in some of our pilot counties, we have what's called a family engagement committee. And that is where we encourage counties to develop a committee that includes local leadership. It can be just child welfare local leadership. It can be child welfare local leadership and community partners, but they also have to reach out and engage, in particular, biological parents who've had experience with the child welfare system, but really it's up to them to choose family partners that fit their desire to engage families. And that family engagement committee will then meet on a regular basis to provide feedback and consultation to DSS leadership at the county level in all of their programs that they choose to bring to the table. So if there's a question about, we're doing shared parenting and we'd like to make it better, that may be brought to the Family Engagement Committee for all of those players to take a look at the existing practice and think about how it's moving. Another way we look at tier 2 that would be, I think, be very relevant to the work that you're doing is we we also do parent cafes as a part of our model. And tier 2 is where we ask our family partners to both co-develop the cafe and co-facilitate or facilitate that cafe event. So there are opportunities for tier 2 level engagement in the work that you're doing, where you're really asking family partners to step up and take a leadership role in getting feedback from your communities and moving practices forward in a way that really is that partnership and that collaboration. Tier 3 is the state level advisory council. So we currently have 12 members, or we're aiming for 12 members on that state level advisory council. We ask them to commit to a 2-year window. It includes biological parents, kinship caregivers, foster parent, an adoptive parent, and youth who are a part of the system. So we really are trying to bring all those different perspectives together, and they meet on a regular basis with state leadership to provide consultation and counsel for the different programs and practices and policies that state child welfare is asking counties to implement. So I think what's critical for you all in terms of just sort of the core piece of this leadership model is to recognize that there are opportunities at every level, every tier. I think it's also really important to think about the family leadership that you develop in your counties at that tier 1 and tier 2 level. They can be referred to the state level advisory council. What's really important though for the state level advisory council is that membership at the state level advisory council is based on sponsorship from your local DSS. So as you think about your community prevention plans, and you think about the teams that you're building around, it's important to think about child welfare, your local DSS leadership, and keeping them included in particular, keeping them clued into the leadership, the family leadership that you all are developing and that you all have access to in your communities. Because it'll be really important for them to know that family partners are out there, they're being developed by all of us to support these really critical conversations, and that there are opportunities for family partners in your communities to be able to engage at the state level through membership on the state level Child Welfare Family Advisory Council. So I think, Malia, are there any other points that you wanted me to share specifically about this model?
No, I think that, no, thank you, Cara. That was very thorough, and I think that that covered everything about the model. I appreciate it.
All right. So moving on, and Gina will talk a little bit about co-creating with families.
Okay, hello everyone again. Before I talk about the creating with the family, I just wanted to give a little background. I didn't get into this work because I'm a social worker or have any background in social services. I became a part of this work because basic life circumstances led me into being the role of a kinship care provider. So, as everybody knows, life happens. Um, and this work started for me with our guardian ad litem. She suggested there was a group forming and she thought that I might like it. And I was invited to be a part of the state's process improvement plan work group. And at the first meeting, I would say, pleasantly surprised. It was more like basically shocked that there was actual social services leadership, state level people at the table, and they really wanted to hear what families had to say. And it was very authentic, and there wasn't any tokenism. And they really wanted to make a positive partnership, leaving, past feelings, at the door. Being in a room, with all these different agencies and community partners, all these different personalities and agendas coming together to figure out, how we can include the family voice in this work. And it was very engaging from the start. And I think that when you do this in your community, you're going to find that it really clicks, and it's like a beautiful thing. So, how do we set up meetings 4 environments for this collaboration to work. Family partners first invited into meetings, they can be somewhat intimidated in the beginning. We need to prepare them specifically for who's going to be in the group. Make it clear what the group wants, what they need, and that they honor the family partner role in the development of the collaboration. Proper introductions are very important, and warm-up activities each time the group meets. That's very important. We all know that warm-up activities, they wake you up, they get the juices flowing, they get your mind moving, but they can make the family partners feel more at ease and relaxed instead of walking in, sit down, start the meeting. So motivating people for the partnership from the family perspective. When we talk about lived experience with child welfare and preventing child abuse, lived experience of child welfare, there's parts of this that are not pleasant. Getting invited just to sit at the table with child welfare, it was intimidating, but an opportunity to help make things better for other families that came behind me in my experience and work with positive system changes. I was never made to feel like I had to share my entire story all at once. I didn't have to justify my lived experience to have my family voice feel valued. The groups I've worked with are interested in learning from my story and the story of others without needing specific details or knowing more than I felt comfortable sharing. Um, I wanted to be a part of this group and this work. Regardless of my family experience, I wanted to be part of a bigger change and efforts for families that come behind me. The goal, like Cara said, is not to create advocates, but to make the system change with family partners and pull in full partnership. Part of the word partners, in collaboration to figure out what changes need to be made and how to walk these changes forward. Um, it's important to remember that everyone comes to the table, with their personal stuff. And then as we share, all the different um, birth parents and adoptive parents and foster parents, all these different opinions, coming together, and we see, there's common lines and common goals that work for that. Some of the practices that'll make this collaboration work, um, in general, the outcome of the family partner view, they want to have their input valued and considered important. Um, the reaction, the feedback, feeling like people are listening. I could see that my ideas were being included, and I saw the process, folding out in front of me, and watching it become something. And it was real action and not just talk. Not a meeting just to have a meeting. No one, always gets what they want. Sometimes, the group's suggestions, they're made, but there's just something they can't be done. It's just not something that's going to work. But what's important is to have open conversations as to why something we suggested couldn't be done. It's same as letting me know how my voice is going to be used. As far as what works to make this happen, as I said before, warm-up activities are a must, along with proper introductions. You don't want to have any surprises on your agendas, and proper preparation with your family partners before the meeting, especially when you're looking at that tier 2 that Cara was talking about, having your family partners assist in your cafes. When you're having a meeting, a nice little trick is to have people assigned to tables, mixing up the agency with the family partners at the same table, and having support at the table for the family partner, making sure that their voices are heard. You don't want to walk into a meeting and have all the family partners at one table and all the agencies at another table, all the community partners at another table. Mix it up. And you need to be clear about what expectations you have for your family partners. Let them know in advance, what kind of activities or discussions that you need them to be prepared for, because they want to be prepared, and what you want them to engage in. And it's also good on your side if you could have consistent membership for the group. You don't want your family partners to be the only ones that are always there, and the agency and community partners keep changing. Let's see. So the last practice that makes this a success is the feedback loop. At each of the meetings, we always shared what happened to the information that we developed in the previous meeting and how it was digested and if anything came of it. Sometimes that takes months, but we would use that information to develop our next agendas and the next performance discussions. Next slide.
All right, so Gina did a beautiful job of laying out what makes it easier for families to come to the table and really engage in this kind of partnership in this conversation and be partners, and helping you figure out your prevention plans. But I think there is some onus on the agencies who are organizing and coordinating the work to make sure that you provide some support and some infrastructure for families who are coming to this to participate in this process. One thing that is really going to be critical is that you have a point person. It does, just you need to have one person who is sort of the keeper of the information and the point person for family partners to check in. Is the meeting still happening? Where is the meeting? Is parking available? Any question that you may have about attending and participating in the meeting, family partners really need to have one go-to person who can be responsive and can provide that kind of information. The other role for that point person, if you can build it in to help you in being successful in this work, is to really take some time to support families in thinking about how they want to walk into that room. Similar to if you at your agency walked into a family's home, you wouldn't know the rules of the road. It would be a different culture, a different sort of space for you. You couldn't just take your know-how from work and just plop it into that family home and know and feel comfortable about how you're going to engage with that family. It's a very similar experience. Even if you have families who are who work with agencies or are familiar with agencies, when they're coming to the table as family members to represent family perspective in these conversations, you can't make any assumptions that the culture is going to be a good fit. And part of what we really need to do is to support family partners in thinking about how they engage with the more structured, systemic culture. So whoever your collaborative partners are, all those systems, all those agencies, all those community agencies have their own way of doing things, and not necessarily always thinking about how you fold families in those conversations. So a couple of pointers before you even get to the meeting is Gina talked about introductions being really critical. She also talked about not necessarily having to share her whole story. You don't have to share your whole story in an introduction, but for those of us who are in systems, we can say, I'm, Cara Allen Eckert, I work at NC State, and this is my role. For family partners, you want to really help them think about how they want to introduce themselves to this process. They're there because of lived experience. They are not required to share every piece of their lived experience, but there are going to be assumptions made about family partners based on the fact that they're there as family partners with lived experience. So it's really important to help family partners think about what they want to share and how they want to introduce themselves and what their role is in that process. Part of what's going to help them think through that is letting them know who's going to be in the room. You know, if it's a bunch of sort of very, very high level system people, that could be intimidating. So help them to understand who the folks are in the room, what their roles are, why they're engaged in this process, giving families enough information so that they can feel comfortable that they can make decisions about how they want to introduce themselves. Provide written material before the meeting. So agendas, if there are any things that they're going to be asked to review or provide insights to, anything you can get to family partners before that meeting is a really good idea, because as Gina said, families want to come to the table prepared. They want to engage in the conversation. They want to be a part of meaningful discussions and meaningful decisions. And the more information you can give families before they step into that room to think about and to prepare for and to identify their thoughts, so that they feel more comfortable sharing and are not just providing feedback on the spot, is better. Be clear about your expectations for family partners. Usually when I work with new family partners who are engaging in this process, I say, look, you don't have to share anything if you don't want. If part of what you want to do is just kind of get a lay of the land, go absorb, and make sure that this is a conversation you want to continue to be a part of, that is absolutely fine. I will then usually offer sort of a check-in conversation after that first meeting to get more feedback from that about that experience and support them in maybe coming to the table the next time and engaging a little bit more. But really, you want to be clear about what those expectations are, so that family partners know what they're signing up for. Even at that tier 1 level, when you're asking families to come and participate in a parent cafe, particularly if you're asking them to participate in a parent cafe with a system that they may have had a mixed, experience with, you want them to know what they're going to be asked to do, what they're going to be asked to share, and what you expect of them in participating in this parent cafe. It's important for people to have as much information as they can to make their own decisions about how they want to engage in this family leadership model. And then I think the last point that's really important is recognizing that in many spaces, partnering with families like this is not a norm. And unless you prepare your agency staff and you prepare your community partners that this is an expectation of the work that you're doing and that we need to recognize families as partners in this work, you're probably going to get some of those reactions where people are not super welcoming of families as a part of this conversation, because it's different and it's uncomfortable and it creates an opportunity where there may be some criticism of the work you're doing. So it's really important that you prepare your agency staff for this shift in the way that things are going to be done, so that they can really think about how to engage family partners in a positive and meaningful way, because it's not an opportunity for families to come and just, sort of share every grief they've had with this system. Families are coming to the table because they want to be a part of making things better. And it's important for agency staff to recognize that that is the end goal for everybody. So that's the little bit for before. Gina's going to talk a little bit more about the during and after tips.
Okay, so after you do all your due diligence in the front end before work that Cara talked about, I want to give some suggestions to help your family partners during the actual meetings or events. Housekeeping. At the start of every meeting, make sure that you let everyone know where the restrooms are, where the break room is, etc. You might use this meeting room all the time and this is their first time in the building. Make sure that you welcome everyone and let them know that if there's any issues or subject matter that come up that may bring up any trauma memories from their lived experience, that self-care is important and that they are free to leave the room and take care of themselves. That should be done, before every meeting, discussing self-care. And, it's nice to have more than one family partner per event. It's not always fun being the Lone Ranger in these type of meetings or events. It might seem to make the family partner feel like a token and not a partnership if they're the only one. You don't need to have equal amounts of the same type of participant at each meeting, but it's best that one not completely outweigh the other. And if you could think about limiting or at least seriously explaining acronyms that are going to be used during that event. One thing we found that works really well is, if it's a very acronym heavy subject, to make a listing on a whiteboard on the wall and, list what the acronyms are so they can be referenced during the meeting. Because I've found it's not just family partners. There's some agency people that I don't know what that acronym actually means. So it's good to have those definitions. And when you're having, in the middle of the meeting, it's not necessary. It's not a good idea to call out family partners by name, to elicit their participation on a particular subject. But it's good to frequently ask the group for their thoughts and ideas. Family partners aren't probably going to interrupt you to say what they mean. But during the meeting, if you ensure that their voice is included, especially at the beginning of a project, to make sure you stop frequently and ask if there's anything that they want to add, giving them time to be invited to do that. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so after the meeting or event, preferably away from the event, not when you walk out right out the door. Need to follow up with your family partner. After they've had a little time to process the information, but then again, don't wait too long that they forgot the details of what they might have wanted to discuss with you. When you're that point person, let them know how the information they provided is going to be used. And as Carr mentioned, during this follow-up time, make sure that they're aware that it's a safe space for them to ask any additional questions or get clarification on any discussions or meeting materials, and follow up on how the meeting went for them. And then, during this follow-up time, ask them how they felt about their involvement on that particular subject. And then see, is this work something that they would like to continue to be a part of? And then, it's all just to thank them for their input during this follow-up meeting. And, maybe another week later, just a quick contact. And it doesn't always have to be phone, email, text, just a quick check-in. If they had any additional questions, or, are they looking to continue to be part of this work? Because especially if they're new, they need to be reminded that the family voice really is important in making these system changes that we want. Next slide.
All right, everyone. Sorry, let me get situated here. So, how do we want to engage families? We really want to think about, this is Malia again, by the way. How do we want to engage families? We want to try and have these parent community cafes posted, which I think you all may know this, that PCANC does have funding to be able to pay for your food for cafes. And I know that that's one of the obstacles, right? Like it's hard to figure out how we're going to pay for food. So we have that covered for you. We can pay for your food. We can pay for the materials for the cafes. We really want the parents to be engaged as far as being participants and facilitators of these cafes. We really want them to be members of your group, your child abuse prevention planning group, your community prevention action plan group. And we really would like to see parents presenting and educating on our plans as well. And as Gina was just talking about, that means that we're preparing parents to be able to go out, supporting them, following up with them, ensuring that they're treated as complete equal partners, but not, of course, making anyone do anything that they don't feel comfortable with doing, okay? But inviting them to be a part of the process for as much as they would like to be a part of this process. All right, so I want to share a couple of documents with you that we've put together, and we're going to be sharing these documents with you. Okay, we're going to be sharing the documents with you as you need them. Can you switch it to show my computer? Hang on 1 second. We don't have it pulled up, so I can't go through it and show the application and the matrix to you that we put together. But I want you to know that we did put together, and we have it available. We can customize it for you. We have an application that the parents can fill out. Okay, so when you're ready to bring parents to the table, we want it to, feel like a process that parents, you're having a conversation with them, and you're trying to learn if they're a good fit, and they're trying to figure out if they're a good fit for you as well. So we have an application, and it's based on the work Cara and Dina have been doing. Okay, so there's an application process that parents have to go through if we're going to be on the Child Welfare Family Advisory Council. We have an application that we put together, and Dina and Cara have been very kind to go through and help me with editing it to ensure that it's going to have all of the questions on it that we think would be important that you would want to know the answers to find out, what is their interest in being part of your work? What do they feel they can bring to the table? What can you offer to parents who are going to be at the table as well? So we have this application. What I would like to do is actually customize it for you. So if you want to take a look at it, that's totally fine. Just email Taylor or Nadia and ask them, and they can share it with you. But we would like to, because we've left spaces in it where we can add in specifically for your organization or for your CPAP group. So just know that we'll customize that for you, okay? And we also have put together a stipend matrix, okay? So we are still working on, and we hope to get funding so we can pay parents to be at the table, okay? We really need to focus on that, and I encourage you all to try to figure out funding sources where you can try to pay parents for their time to be at the table, because they are there as partners, right? So we put together a stipend matrix that's also based on the Child Welfare Family Advisory Council matrix, okay? And it has a breakdown of, if a parent is supporting you in a training, if a parent is going to be presenting, if a parent's attending a meeting, etc., what they would be paid, okay? And it also includes one thing that I thought was very thoughtful that they included as part of this matrix, is that there's a piece, a part of the matrix where parents can sign it, and they can say yes or no that they don't want to receive the the stipend. And the reason why this is so important is that if they receive over a certain amount, this could impact benefits. If they're receiving any benefits, it could impact their benefits, right? So I thought that was really thoughtful that they added that part, and something that I may not have thought of. That's included in there as well. But it has, for trainings, for attending meetings, for prepping for meetings, etc. And it also has trainings broken down dependent on how long they actually are, if they're a full day, a half day, etc. So, and we encourage you to use the matrix because it is based on the state level. Again, we're continuing to advocate to try to figure out some funding for these stipends, but also I encourage you to take a look around. Sometimes at the end of the fiscal year, we can move money around, or we can figure out how to provide some of these stipends for parents so they can truly be equal partners at the table for us. All right, so Taylor's going to close us out here. Thank you so much, Gina and Cara, for sharing your expertise, for walking us through how we can engage parents as a part of this process. I really appreciate you all sharing your experiences and your lessons learned with us today. And tomorrow we have another webinar scheduled for you, and I'm going to let Taylor share with you a little bit about that.
Thank you, Malia, and thank you so much, Cara and Gina. Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor McDonald. I'm one of the Partnership Engagement Managers here at Prevent Child Abuse North Carolina, and we're extremely excited to be rolling out the community prevention action plans with you all in partnership with ECAP. Our next webinar will be tomorrow. I'm sorry, that should say it starts at 10 a.m. from 11 a.m., not to 10 to 10 a.m. So it'll start at 10 a.m. and it'll go to 11 a.m. I've sent out an invite for this with a bunch of registrations, but I can send it out as a reminder again today. And tomorrow at the Community Cafe webinar, we'll just talk about what the Community Cafe process is. It'll be kind of like a Community Cafe 101. I'll share with you guys some handouts that'll be beneficial about the materials that you would need for a Community Cafe and kind of how the whole process flows. And that will be recorded as well. So after this webinar today, I'll be sending you guys the recording as well as all of the handouts that we went through today and the PowerPoint that you saw today, so you could use it as needed. And same with tomorrow as well. And we're very grateful to have you all on today, and we're looking forward to continuing our work with you. Thank you so much, Cara and Gina, for being on with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.
Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you. I don't see any in the text box, but if you have any, feel free to reach out to Nadia or myself, and we will put you in contact and get those questions answered for you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.